Hi there, it's me, Editor Chan. Today we'll be looking at looping animations in the Pose Maker, along with a few other advanced topics. I recommend checking out the Pose Maker Basics video if you aren't already familiar with the Pose Maker. To start, I'm going to make a new pose containing a single sprite. The name doesn't matter since this is just for demonstration and not something I'll actually use in dialogue. Okay, so I've got a cloud that moves down, and I want to loop the Y animation. Looping a parameter is toggled by clicking this open region. When working with loops, you should set the play mode to play ones with loops. Okay, so I've got it looping infinitely here, but I'm going to change up the animation a bit just to make the next things a bit more clear. I'll make the cloud move all the way down and then back up halfway. If you click a parameter name, Y in this case, you'll be taken to its animation settings. We're going to look at the various repeat methods, which control what happens when an animation loops. Clamp is not particularly useful outside epilogues, so we won't demonstrate it here, but what it does is play a looped animation a single time. Wrap is the default loop behavior. Once it reaches the end of the loop, it jumps back to the start of the animation. Note the blue bar moving across the Y parameter here. Mirror causes the animation to loop back and forth. Look at the blue bar if this isn't clear. I'm going to change up the animation here again to try to demonstrate mirror a little more obviously. I'm also going to animate the X parameter too to show how parameters are animated independently. So I'll just have this move diagonally across the screen. We don't need the middle keyframe anymore. Okay, now when we play it, you'll see the cloud is moving up and down back and forth, but once it reaches the right side, it stays on the right side. This is because we aren't looping on X. I'll toggle X to loop as well, and now we get a kind of funny X pattern in our movement. This is because X is using wrap mode, while Y is using mirror. See their blue bars? I'll put X on mirror mode too. Now the animation is synchronized. Next, let's talk about iterations. This is how many times the animation loops. I'll make X repeat 3 times. Watch and see that it travels horizontally 3 times before stopping movement in the X-axis. Y is at 0, which means to loop indefinitely. What if we want to loop for a bit and then do something else? I'm going to make my cloud bounce up halfway once and then fly to the top. First I'll set up the bouncing animation using 2 keyframes into mirrored loop. The cloud moves to the halfway point, then travels back to the bottom. Now, how many iterations does this actually use? Once to move up, twice to move down, and thrice to go back up again. So I'll set the iterations to 3 and confirm that it stops on the second hop. Now I want to see where in the timeline this loop actually ends, so I'll zoom out and play it again. Obviously a 1-second animation repeated 3 times takes 3 seconds, so I'll add a keyframe here. I'm just going to nudge the sprite a bit to insert a Y value at this frame. Then I'll finish the animation by moving it the rest of the way at 4 seconds. I'll delete X since we're only concerned with vertical motion. Now if we play the animation, this doesn't look right. It stops halfway and then travels the rest before coming back down. This is because a loop runs across an entire animation block, which by default is everything. We need to split up the animation at 3 seconds by selecting the keyframe and then toggling its type to be a new block beginning. You can visually see the 2 animation blocks for Y now, and as we play, the animation plays out how we wanted. Yay! Let's talk a little now about animation blocks and easing. I'll clear everything out of this animation and start from scratch, this time making the cloud just move up, but with a couple keyframes in the middle of the animation. Let's spread them all a second apart and have it move about 1/4 of the way each frame. Now, I'm going to change the ease mode to something easy to see. If you watch the blue bar, it eases across the entire animation block regardless of the intermediate frames. What if we wanted it to ease between each keyframe? Let's select the second key and change its type to start a new block. This isn't quite what we want because now the first frame is both a block beginning and block ending, meaning we lose the whole first chunk of our animation, so I'll toggle the second frame's type again to be a split. This makes it both the ending of the previous block and the beginning of a new block. I'll do the same for the third frame, and now we have 4 distinct blocks. As you can see, I can set different ease methods within each block, and they all behave separately. Blocks do not need to be contiguous. We can add dead time to an animation by adding a keyframe out here a bit and toggling it to be a block beginning. Now when we play, you can see nothing happens during this empty space. This was implied earlier, but if you make the block before the empty space loop, then it will continue to loop until hitting the next block. Okay, that about wraps things up here. Remember, these work for any parameter, not just X and Y movement. You can animate and loop rotation, scale, and so on, separately from one another. Okay, see you next time.